Doug still writes me. I mean, he still tries to connect with me, and I'm trying to get past this. I had to block him multiple times. There are times when I feel a struggle. And this is really interesting. I was talking to my fiance last night. We were at the Ivy last night. We were, having a nice dinner, and then I just started crying mid-dinner. It was just like, it just comes up. But I have this struggle where I want answers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think that I'll always struggle with that. I don't know if I'll ever get them, but sometimes I then unblock him because I don't reach out, but I unblock him because I think there's this psychological tug of war that I go through where, if he says something to me that makes sense of why he did this. I mean, when we were going through the divorce, he was grooming a 15-year-old girl in the UK, and I saw all the emails. She ended up sending me all of the emails, and she just wrote me a DM the other day after I did Call Her Daddy podcast, and she told me I'm her savior for getting her out of that situation. I don't know. I need answers, and I need to also get my story out there because I'm not the villain. I'm not the villain that everybody painted me out to be. I'm a survivor, and I'm realizing what that means to be a survivor now. Doug still writes me. I mean, he still tries to connect with me, and I'm trying to get past this, and I'm so grateful that I had the strength to move on. And in that, I'm still trying to find ways to still move on because every day is different. Some days I don't want to get out of bed. There are days where I realize, I think for us, for especially people who have been through trauma, we really need to make sure that we take sick days, not only when we're feeling sick, right? But when we're mentally exhausted, we should treat ourselves with that same grace and, take a sick day and stay in bed, right? If you're feeling really down, just don't be too down on yourself and take that. And I think that's definitely what I'm going through right now. I'm trying not to beat myself up so much for allowing myself that grace to heal. It was an out-of-body experience. I kind of relate it to when I was in the Donald Trump Miss USA teen pageants. Mm-hmm. I felt like, today is the day I'm going to go to Las Vegas for the first time in my life. And I'm going to get married. So I need to get ready, and I need to look the part for my husband, who I thought I was madly in love with. So I wanted to be a woman for him because sickly, I didn't realize that he was into minors. So I wanted to look older. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's the sickness in a predator's mind. Like, they prey on that. When you're a child, you have a really low self-esteem, obviously, especially put in that position. So that day for me was very out of body. It was just too much for me to process at that age.
Yeah.
It was an ongoing realization because I was coming from a child perspective. Children don't necessarily have the, our brains aren't developed yet. We don't really know what's happening to us, but we feel things. And I could always feel that something wasn't right. I would cry myself to sleep with a bottle of wine almost every night at 17 years old. That's not right. There are things that were present in my life at the time I could make sense of. Now, in retrospect, as an adult, I can see, and I wish that I could go back and tell myself, you know, this isn't your fault. What you're feeling, it's abuse. It's a toxic abuse cycle. And I'm just grateful to myself now that I'm able to realize it for what it is. It was grooming and emotional abuse. And so many children go through this. I believe the statistics were from the years of 2000 to 2018, I think 200,000 or 300,000, I'll have to look into it again, but children were married off to adults in the USA, and some as young as 10 years old. And it's shocking because we think of child bride as like some foreign thing, right? Like we don't really think that it's happening potentially in our neighborhood or in our communities, but it's happening all the time. And so I'm really fighting to change these laws in the USA because it's scary. It's scary how normal it actually really is. I struggle with that too every single day. And in writing my book, I'm also, working with therapists to like help me through all of this stuff. But I absolutely struggle with anger towards my father, a really deep anger. And that's such a struggle for me because I love him so much, but he doesn't see it as his responsibility. He sees it as mine. When I was a 16-year-old, like I was old enough to make that decision, which doesn't make any sense to me. And I know, in retrospect that he has his own things, his own demons and such, but I struggle with resentment towards my father. My mom has apologized to me over and over and over again. It's been a struggle. I cut her off for 2 years at one point in my life. And then we, met again on mother-daughter experiment. I had talked to her in 2 years and we met on TV. I mean, it was just, everything's been so crazy. But with her, we really have went through so much healing together. And I'm so grateful to her for that, to see, and to recognize, that she was also groomed. Movie star, charming, but, he really swooped my mother off of her feet, in the sense of she believed that he was going to take care of her daughter and make me happy. And she really did believe that. Nobody's perfect. She's a survivor herself. She's gone through her story as a woman, and I went through my own anger in that situation, but we came together and we worked it out. But that's something that my father is not willing to do. So he actually completely disowned me. He texted me and said, "You're not my daughter," and he said, "Never contact me again," and he blocked me. So. Yeah, I mean, some history and backstory on my mom. She was the most protective mother. I mean, other parents would make fun of her, saying, you need to let your daughter do more things. I mean, she wouldn't even let me walk to the mailbox by myself. She was very protective. And here comes Doug, this charming
movie star. Yeah.
I believe that he believes all of this was my fault when my mother divorced my father after I got married. So because of his decision to, give me away to a 50-year-old man who's older than him, my mother decided to leave him, and it was my fault. And so, and then my mom found somebody else. She was happy with somebody else, and I didn't tell my dad. I was in a position at 17 years old. I didn't know what to do there. And so he just blames me for a lot. And I think that that's the issue too, with not only my own father, but a lot of different people who saw me as the villain. They saw me as somebody who was because I didn't look like a 16-year-old at the time. I was trying to portray this woman persona because, again, that's what grooming is. I was already groomed into that role, and that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to be that woman, and my father went right along with it as well. He just didn't see me as a child, which is insane because I'm his child, which makes me sad. I've always been, working on music, and I love music. It's also like a healing journey for me, writing and working with some awesome creative people that I just love. So, yeah. I can't tell you how many beautiful people have connected with me. I wish I could write everybody back and just tell them how amazing they are. It's overwhelming. Mm-hmm. It's overwhelming, and just trying to read through everybody's stories, and it's so touching and so heartbreaking, but it makes me feel so much less alone. And it's a reminder of why I'm doing this, honestly. And I'm working on a nonprofit called Above Abuse right now. And my goal for my nonprofit is to provide resources for survivors and people who just don't have those resources for therapy, and just a community for all of these beautiful people who are reaching out to me to come together and be everybody's support system. And it's so important.